продовжуємо роботу.
We continue the work of Ukraine Crisis Media Center, and now we start to talk about what the Anti-Corruption Council has managed and what failed to do, according to the opinion of Reanimation Package of Reforms, results of 2016, current problems and perspectives. Our guests are Oksana Velychko, member of the Anti-Corruption Council of the Kyiv Mayor, Mykhailo Serebriakov, member of the Anti-Corruption Council of the Kyiv Mayor, expert of the RPR-Kyiv group, Olesia Arkhypska, member of the Anti-Corruption Council of the Kyiv Mayor, Transparency International of Ukraine expert, Lesia Shevchenko, member of the Anti-Corruption Council, NGO Foundation Open Society, Oleksandr Pliva, member of the Anti-Corruption Council, chief expert of the RPR-Kyiv group. My name is Oksana Velychko. Good morning. I'm from the RPR package, Reanimation Package of Reforms-Kyiv. We will be talking about the achievements of the Anti-Corruption Council of the Kyiv Mayor, what failures and what achievements we have, how we work in the Anti-Corruption Council. Our activities have been a little bit decreasing, and what to do so that this body is transformed into the mechanism of real reforms. Kyiv Mayor has established the Anti-Corruption Council, and he wanted to combat corruption, and there is best practices so far. The countries such as Seoul and Hong Kong cities, and these practices demonstrate that this body can really frighten corrupt officials. Unfortunately, this hasn't happened to the Anti-Corruption Council in Kyiv, and how to turn it, how to transform it into the better performing body. Talking about its status, it gives advice, pieces of advice. The work groups meet, and the work group works with documents, they elaborate proposals, and at the meetings of the Anti-Corruption Council, they are documented as protocol binding orders. In 2016, 22 work groups meetings were held and 16 Anti-Corruption Council meetings. 34 members are present in the Anti-Corruption Council composition. In fact, there were 11 representatives of the Kyiv city administration and 18 public representatives. Some of them we saw only at the first meeting of the Anti-Corruption Council. They have not taken part in our activities and haven't contributed to our activities, and also they have not contributed their proposals. Kyiv city's administration also have not elaborated proposals. Kyiv mayor or representatives of general public. How we worked, we had several areas of activities. One of the key areas was to develop an anti-corruption program. This was our largest document which we have elaborated. It contains the lines for systemic reforms in the city, restructuring of the Kyiv municipal administration's activities, and also communal services restructuring, and many other areas we address, such as procurement. Anti-Corruption Council worked as work groups and big meetings, and in our materials, which we have disseminated, we show who attended the meetings and who have not attended them, and who has never contributed his activities in the working group. GIZ coordinated, in fact, the work of 4 people: communication manager, lawyer, assistant, and coordinator. They called the meetings, they sent the letters. And the main thing which we want to accent on, when our activities started, we told that there are some risks which may impede its activities and our body. We had many hopes on its achievements, but we mentioned also some risks. In the first is consultative nature of the council. Our decisions are not binding, but protocol orders of the Kiev mayor, they are binding. So bureaucracy, no initiative, formal approach, they were main risks, and we mentioned them before we started working. From those protocol orders, which were 27% of orders have been completed, 36% of the decisions of ACC have not been performed, and 27% have been performed just partially. So many orders which were issued upon ACC's decisions, they are not fulfilled within the deadlines. If we are a consultative body and Kiev Mayor's office just takes account of our decisions and our decisions are not implemented, then our activities and the nature of the Anti-Corruption Council should be reviewed. We will talk today about how we see the reforming of Council.
Hello, dear friends. Oksana has already characterized the general statistics, but in fact, the status of performance or non-performance of commissions in every directions we worked differs significantly. The foreign advertising direction is characterized by the at least percent of adopted commissions. 68 of these commissions were not performed. And as we are reporting on our activity of the last year, we have to say that the most significant achievement of ours has become the decision of the Kyiv City Council. That is decision about external advertising, but unfortunately, currently this decision hasn't been fixed by proper legislation. The situation, from the point of view of the management, hasn't changed much for the city. Probably one of the most important challenges for the mayor is that during 3 years of his being in the position, the law on advertising and the procedure of advertising in Kyiv hasn't been performed. Many things were not performed that had to be performed. Also, unfortunately, so far we don't have the procedure of detection and removal of violations in advertising. We had a protocol commission approved still last April. Last year. This document is very necessary because you know that violations are numerous in the advertising area. The number of placed advertisements without permissions exceeds 1.5 times those permitted. And there are numerous places for misuses. We have, so we can sum it up. The city authorities have chosen the way of declarative and demonstrative reformation of this area that doesn't change the essence of approaches. For example, the payment for the advertising on the communal property is transferred to a municipal enterprise rather than to the budget as required by the legislation. Also, the situation about promulgation information in this area is not very good as well. The information is promulgated in restricted portions, which restricts greatly the activity of citizens to control and to influence the processes in this area. And the practical achievement, probably last year practical achievement, that was demolition of a mega billboard that was placed near the Moscow Bridge with the area of 900 square meters that was placed there since March 2012. So it had been there 3 years. Then its owners didn't pay money to the city budget. And the result was the demolition, the disassemblage. But the Kyiv State Administration or a municipal enterprise required, via court, to required funds from the owner, 200,000 hryvnias for the demolition of this structure, and 3.5 million hryvnias that didn't reach the budget were not required by anyone. And this demonstrates the real state of things in this area. Much better achievements we have in another area, which is called administrative services. That this has become possible due to the fact that owing to the implementation of activities in this area, the Reanimation Package of Reforms, Olesia Shevchenko, contributed in that thing. Last year, the list of administrative services was approved. Also, the concept of the Center of Administrative Services was approved, and a great number of information cards of administrative services was updated. These cards describe the procedure of getting services by citizens and legal entities, and they list a number of documents for getting administrative services. But again, coming back, for example, to the previous section, to the advertising, regardless of the fact that information cards for changing, for issuance of permits of advertising permits were issued in summer last year, but there was no update. The same thing can be observed in the area of administrative services. Unfortunately, we can observe a lot of drawbacks concerning the administrative services provided by the Department of Arrangement of the Territory Arrangement. This department still provides a service that wasn't stipulated by the law. It is called, instead of a permission about arrangement of the territory, we still have a card on violation of the arrangement of the territory. Last year, an expert council for administrative services was created. Finally, it has started to work. It has to consider complaints and to process relevant procedures to improve administrative services in the city of Kyiv. Then I am giving the floor to Mykhailo Serebriakov to describe another section. Thank you, dear colleagues. I'm going to talk about topics where the City Council has dubious achievements. As for me, I would characterize the anti-corruption policy of our mayor as a paradox. Why? There is a situation when the mayor of the Anti-Corruption Council has quite material anti-corruption achievements, but their implementation, concerning their implementation, it evokes a great surprise with us. I'll give you two examples of the parking area and competition procedure. Probably Kyiv was one of the first municipality. Kyiv implemented a rather strong competitive procedure for assigning heads of the utility companies. 2 years ago, the civil society representatives developed a draft of competitive procedures to assign heads of utility companies. We focused on this topic because we see the major corruption in the municipal sector economy of Kyiv rather than in the work of officials. So this procedure stipulated a number of strong positions that allow us to call it not artificial, real. We are thankful to the city, to the mayor. We had personal approvals to generate the competition commission, so that the city authorities didn't have monopolies. We could talk about a great chance about the independence of the competitive procedure on one personality, then transparency of the competitive procedures, from opening meetings to the possibility of the public to get familiarized with protocols of competition commissions. Then the third advantage is based, first of all, on the fact that candidates apply, they apply competitive proposals where they set forth their vision, how they're going to generate a utility company, how they're going to overcome corruption risks. For example, Kyiv has the main corruption risk that funds can come. Funds from transportation can come not to the city budget, not to the utility company, but to a private individual. And in his competitive proposals, the candidate may tell about his vision how to overcome this. Then there were competitive proposals of a candidate like a 3-volume paper, but the description wasn't done by the candidate, but his team, and only an interview can check the compliance of the level of the candidate's level to the level of his description. And now, and we had an opportunity to evaluate how objective the commission was. And the procedure ends with the commission's appointment of 2 candidates from whom the mayor assigns or declares winners of this competition. But we have one but. This document was adopted on the 21st of July 2016, and it came into force on the 1st of September. Apart from one pilot experiment, no head of a utility company was appointed. Again, last year, at one of the meetings of the Anti-Corruption Council, the mayor gave us a direct promise to assign heads of 2 utility companies, Kyiv Post Trans, Kyiv and Kyiv Advertising. Why? Because these companies have in their hands a lot of city funds. Kyiv Post Trans head was appointed 2 days before the competition procedure came into force. The object of decisions is the mayor personally. He knows quite well when this decision comes into force. Still, he took this tough decision. and he could appoint the same person to act as a head and then to wait for the competitive procedure. Then the second case where the city council has quite visible achievements is parking. We can talk about the shadowing of the parking space. The city budget would not get money from the parking spaces if they are not included into taxes and fees procedures. There should be an address and the number of parking lots. If the amendment to the document doesn't have this list, then the city council gets nothing. The mayor released quite a great number of heads of Kyiv transport service. They didn't provide sufficient sums going to the budget. 2 years or maybe 1 year, 14,000 of parking lots were prepared, and they were registered for quite a lot of months because this decision was blocked by the transport department, and the city lost dozens of millions of hryvnias, and this draft decision was registered on the 29th of May 2017, and we hope that its consideration by the city council will take much less time. We have 2 minutes, and I will try to rebuild my final speech of our whole team for us to see what's happening to the whole Anti-Corruption Council. We welcome the generation of this institute with the Kyiv City Administration because it's a presentation of goodwill, and this institute has to act. Today, we are going to place the conclusions of our report on websites of the Anti-Corruption Council with all the infographics and all the detailed schemes and diagrams. We encourage you to look at this information and to disseminate it. And we acknowledge that the Anti-Corruption Council's activity wasn't efficient enough, gently speaking, and the most important thing, we are observing the demonstration of improper management with the Kyiv City Council and even with the violation of the existing procedure. And we propose to transform the mechanism of the Kyiv City Council and to change radically the format of this council. The documents we are disseminating for the press conference participants contain the new regulation for the council work, and we want to implement the mechanism of co-chairmanship mechanism with equal rights from the representative from the Kyiv City Council and from the civil society organizations. We want to see actual factors that implement precedents of responsibilities. If orders of the mayor are ignored, or if we can observe improper management, relevant actions have to be taken up to dismissal of some people, because this is the fact of non-fulfillment of the state policy of the Kyiv State Administration. Evidently, if we implement these rules of the game and these new standards of our communication, we will have a chance to save the council. As Oksana said, since January 2017, the Anti-Corruption Council hasn't had any meeting, and we see this as an indication of the fact that the Anti-Corruption Council is ceasing its activity. We wouldn't like to lose this mechanism. That's why we ask the mayor and representatives of the city Kyiv administration to help us to transform the Anti-Corruption Council. We can say now that or the Anti-Corruption Council will imitate activity following a fashion existing in our country. Anti-corruption risks are great risk for all the citizens. Or either we will imitate the activity, or we will do everything possible within our power to implement a real policy of partnership with the heads of civil society institutes. To put it clearer, maybe the victory is in the first round. If we get a victory in the first round, now we can lose the whole war. If one of the elements of the corruption is procrastination, we would like to offer the mayor during the summer to adopt a decision on transformation of the Anti-Corruption Council so that its members could be re-elected and its heads could be re-elected with equal powers from the public and the authority, and to launch a new Anti-Corruption Council starting from the 1st of December. And also we propose the mechanism of dismissal of the Anti-Corruption Council head if commissions are not fulfilled. Dear colleagues, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have time for asking questions directly. So if you have some questions, then please ask them later. We will have our next event in a minute.